Next, we're going to answer some questions to analyze Kendi's argument. If you need to listen to the passage again or reference the passage again, both of those things are up at the top. I'm going to start with question 10. Which of the following elements from the article best describes the state of people of color in 2020's COVID-19 pandemic? Kendi's use of experience with studying gaps in access to healthcare, Kendi's use of statistics about people of color and COVID-19, Kendi's description of his wife's fears, or Kendi's description of his metastatic cancer. Number 11, how does Kendi's portrayal of undocumented immigrants compare with his portrayal of the homeless population? Both populations struggle more with unemployment than exposure to the virus. Both populations struggle with exposure to the virus more than unemployment. Both populations face impossible choices. Both populations struggle more with hunger than exposure to the virus. Number 12, which of the following does Kendi use in his argument? Logos, which is a logical appeal, ethos, an ethical appeal, pathos, an emotional appeal, or all of the above. All right, next, I want you to analyze this billboard, this ad, and decipher which of the following rhetorical appeals does this ad use? Logos, pathos, or ethos? Here's another ad that I want you to analyze and decipher which of the following rhetorical appeals does this ad use? Pathos, logos, or ethos? And I want you to study this ad and decipher which of the following rhetorical appeals does this ad use? Ethos, pathos, or logos? Number 16, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi mostly rely on when he says, quote, in Michigan, Black Americans comprise 14.1% of the state population, but an ungodly 40% of the coronavirus deaths, end quote. Is he using ethos, pathos, or logos here? Number 17, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi mostly rely on when he says, quote, as a student of health disparities, I am especially worried about the well-being of people of color, end quote. Is he mostly using logos, ethos, or pathos? Number 18, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi mostly rely on when he says, quote, I dread every time my partner leaves our home. I dread every time Sadiqa marches to the front lines of the war against COVID-19, the emergency department. I dread every time she comes home and removes her personal protective equipment, end quote. Is he relying mostly on logos, pathos, or ethos here? Number 19, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi mostly rely on when he says, quote, I am worried about her health and my own as someone surviving metastatic cancer, end quote. Is he mostly relying on ethos, logos, or pathos? Number 20, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi mostly rely on when he says, averaging out the racial composition of the 5 New York City zip codes with the highest coronavirus rate shows a significant overrepresentation of Latinos, 45.8%, and Asians, 23.4%, and a significant underrepresentation of whites, 21.2%, and blacks, 8%, when compared with their citywide populations, end quote. Is he mostly relying on logos, ethos, or pathos in this quote? Number 21, which of the following rhetorical appeals does Kendi rely on when he says, sometimes racial data tells us something we don't know. Other times we need racial data to confirm something we already seem to know, end quote. Is he mostly relying on logos, ethos, or pathos here? When you've chosen all of the best answers for each question, please click submit and you have completed your exam. Good job.